the institution or as the arm of the government that is charged with the defending of the constitution or upholding the constitution of Kenya is for it to issue declaration and mandatory injunction be issued to compel the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which is the fifth respondent in our petition, to conduct a referendum, because a referendum, you realize, is when now Kenyans are exercising their sovereignty directly, other than the impeachment process where they go through their elected representative to determine whether the tenure of Mr. Gachagua and Mr. Ruto, who are the respondents in the petition, and deputy president and the president, respectively, should be terminated on the gross violation of the constitution, abuse of power, incompetent governance, and irresponsible loss of trust and legitimacy. As if you recall, I gave the background of all what is ailing the country, including direct attacks on independent institutions like the NSIS, the judiciary, whereby Mr. Gachagua and I have already identified judges that should be removed from the judiciary because of corruption. That means that if such a thing were to happen, the president and the deputy president cannot even constitute a bench, a tribunal to remove judges from the judiciary, because they have already taken sides and they have already done it in public. That has an effect of undermining the independence of the judiciary. If you look at our... Hello?
Sorry, Eric, I think there's a simpler way of looking at this.
Yes, kindly.
If I may, and part of it is historical, part of it has to do with the systems of government. So let me start with the systems of government. Typically, you distinguish between presidential systems and parliamentary systems. In parliamentary systems, it's very easy to get rid of an unperforming executive on political grounds. And that is a practice in the US. The prime minister reads the mood of the country and says that I do not think that I enjoy the confidence of the people. Let me go and test it by calling for a fresh election. That essentially, for all intents and purposes, is a referendum. You don't have that in presidential systems. And so in presidential systems, because they are delegative, this is why we have these procedures where the power to remove a president is then given to the legislature. And then it is made difficult. So in our constitution, those processes are then made very difficult. If you want to impeach a president, or you want to remove a president for incapacity, the procedures are quite arduous, you might say. But you see, because the people are the repository of the power, and this is where Article 1 comes in, it should not be difficult for the people to remove an unperforming president on political grounds. And this has been done. So the problem with presidential systems is that we do not have processes, whether or not they are in law or they are unwritten, like in the case of the British, where a prime minister just reads the mood of the public, as I've said. So there should be, in any political system, there should be a process by which the people can resolve political deadlock and instability where the executive no longer enjoys the confidence of the people. And let's look at the practice of Latin American countries, Ecuador, Bolivia, Venezuela, etc. So now what they've done is to provide for the removal of the president by way of recall. What typically happens in those countries is that somebody would petition. If you're able to amass 15% of the voters, you can petition. The Electoral Commission then is tasked with holding a referendum. If the absolute majority of the voters decide that they are recalling the president, then the president stands recalled. And this takes me to the next point. In law, we distinguish between substantive rights and procedural rights. The fact only that there is no procedure to pursue a substantive right does not negate the right. And in our country, we've had this debate. You'll recall in the old constitution, and there was a judge called Dugdale, was very famous for this. Dugdale had decided that the people could not enjoy, then it was section 75 of the Constitution of Kenya. I think it was section 75 to 88 or whatever, that dealt with the Bill of Rights. That we could not enjoy the Bill of Rights because there were no procedures for us, that because the Chief Justice then had not made the rules. I think subsequently, a decision was made that simply because we do not have a procedural way of enjoying those rights does not mean that we do not have that right. Similarly, Article 1 gives us this power as a people of Kenya to exercise our sovereignty. So we can recall an executive on political grounds. We don't need a reason to recall an executive. We just need to persuade a sufficient number of the people that we want to recall our president. And this is where the petition, I think, comes in. Because we have a substantive right in the Constitution, but we do not have a procedural mechanism for exercising this right. So the petition would be telling the court that, look, in view of this political deadlock, please give us the procedures by which we can exercise our sovereign power to recall the president. For me, I think it is that simple.
I really feel very excited about the idea that we can have another alternative, that we can be able to help ourselves as Kenyans, and that we do not have to succumb to the fact that even if our president is offending the Constitution, then we are doomed for 5 years. I think for me, this is going to be very good news for the very many people who are feeling tonight that really is like the political elite of this country are coming together to perpetuate or to try and really suffocate the voices, even of children. You know, we've been in this country and we've said a lot, but seeing children really even calling us out and calling things out and still finding a political class that cannot listen and cannot do the will of people just because they know they have secured themselves. I really want to associate myself with the comments of my colleagues, Cyprian, and of course, Naomi, that have spoken before me, because we feel that we have got a lot of evidence, and these issues are out there. Kenyans have been speaking about them, that we have a president and a deputy president that do not spare any opportunity for them to offend the Constitution. And my question is, what happens to that? Because you cannot govern this country using any other thing apart from the Constitution. We do not want anybody that will govern us from their head or from some motivational notes or some verses of the Bible. We actually must entrench constitutionalism, and we make sure that the president rules us as per the Constitution. Now, in the event that he does not do that, what recourse do Kenyans have? And I'm really thanking God, because we've spoken with our lawyers and they have explained to us that actually we have an opportunity as citizens of this country, because as our lawyers have explained, that there are two ways that we can do this: directly or indirectly. Indirectly has failed, because indirectly means through our elected representatives. They are not likely to do that anytime soon. As speakers have said before that, we have tried to raise our voices. We've been hoarse, telling Parliament, no, do not pass that bill because it is killing Kenyans. They go ahead and do it. Do not pass the housing levy. It is offensive to so many Kenyans. They still go ahead and do it. Seeing tonight that we as the people, that Kenyans can have hope, that they have another alternative route, I really want to rally Kenyans around it and appreciate the immense role that we have of educating Kenyans and letting them know that they have another opportunity. It's really sad, even like what is happening tonight, you know, seeing political elites coming together, because they have known that maybe We do not know this other particular route. I've seen comments, even associated with the Speaker of the National Assembly, saying that the Gen Z should be told that the president has got a 5-year mandate. And I ask, even when he kills us, he must stay on for 5 years? Really, are Kenyans that helpless? Is our constitution that helpless that he must stay on for 5 years even when he kills us, even when he offends the very basis of framework, which is the constitution that he's supposed to rule by? Because I think for me, yes, he was voted in, but it was on the basis that he would rule us according to the constitution. In the event that he does not do that, as we have demonstrated, I come from an education background, and I really feel sad because some of these issues don't get to be mentioned. We have not had another situation in this country for the last 15 years that so many children are home. We have got capitation grants that have not been sent to schools for quite a long time ago. We have a president who found a capitation of 22,000 per child per year. He has reduced it to 16,000, and he's not even sending it with fidelity without parliament questioning him. Article 53 of the constitution of this country grants the children of this country free and compulsory basic education. Who is this that comes and strips that off them with no question from anybody, sort of running it? If today he feels like reducing 10,000, reducing 2, and even reducing it to 0, he has got no question. So I think really this is an opportunity that we really pray to God that we seize it and we show the political class of this country that yes, it is a 5-year contract, but with conditions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janet. Everybody who's joined us as we in the middle of the conversation, thank you for joining. This conversation is based on a petition that's been taken to court by 14 Kenyans who have come together under the umbrella of the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo, and they are seeking to exercise and to test the powers of this constitution. I am not part of the petitioners and I am not part of the movement, but I'm hosting this conversation because it's one of those interesting times that we are in. We have seen in terms of agitation for the recomposition of the IEBC, because there are people who have said we'd like to see how we can recall our member of parliament. We have hosted on our show on Spice FM the people of Kabete who have started a signature collection exercise. Now this one is another one which is more direct on removal of a president. So what we know is that removal of a president that has been written in clear ink in the constitution is found in Article 145, where a president is removed by impeachment, and this will require a member of the National Assembly, supported by at least a third of the members of the National Assembly, moving a motion for impeachment. And there are 3 grounds: gross violation of the Constitution. There are serious reasons for believing that the president has committed a crime under national or international law for gross misconduct. And if that is supported by at least 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly, then the Speaker of the National Assembly informs the Speaker of the Senate, and then it moves to the Senate, where the Senate conducts a hearing, and the president is given an opportunity to be heard by the Senate. And then the Senate, again, by 2/3, if they vote yes to impeach, then the president will then stand impeached. Or if they don't get 2/3 of members of the Senate, the president stays in office. Or if the committee investigating this finds that the issues that have been raised are not substantiated, then the president also stays in office. But these 14 Kenyans are going to court and they're saying, we are the sovereign of the republic. We, under Article 1 of the Constitution, hold sovereign power, and we may exercise it directly, or we may exercise it through our democratically elected leaders. And we've heard from the lawyers here, and what they're saying is we want to exercise that and other articles of this constitution, and moving to court to ask the court, can we hold a referendum to recall a president, to remove a president from office? That's why we're here. One of the other petitioners that is also on this call is Professor Fred Ogola. Let's hear from you. Prof, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, all our listeners. I think this is an earth-shaking and groundbreaking petition, and that's why there are so many questions. So I'll just make the following submissions. we are being told that the constitution is being violated. That is true. And the state wants us to believe, especially politicians, that there is nothing we can do. And that's why they are trying to tell you, you can only act according to this way because that's what works for them. But Gen Zs have demonstrated to us that we can use we can't you cannot be able to use the table manners that they are giving us. That's why you saw they are completely mold breakers. Just they don't want to be confined by any other things. That's why they just went to the city and said, "What's happening? We are entering parliament. We are invading and occupying this place." Have you seen them giving police permits and the rest? So politicians always want to confine us and want to make us believe there's nothing we can do beyond what is there. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a constitution we have, but there is no constitutionalism. These are not my words. These are words of the likes of Yash Palgai, among other professors of law. So this, what's happening now? Let this petition that we are putting across be that petition that will advance the so-called constitutionalism. And just because we don't want to have legal jargon here, the constitutionalism means that the constitution alone does not secure or bring about constitutionalism. So the constitution we have might not. And we need to be courageous to bring that so-called constitutionalism. So let KBT, through the petitioners, create these precedents, because I'm sure why we are thinking it might not happen either that no one has done it. And maybe let's be inspired by some of the guys, Eliud Kipchoge, who says that human is not limited. I'm sure we are not limited by here. And these people are trying to tell us that our rights are limited. We are not. Our rights are not limited because of the fact that we are the one who caused these institutions even to exist. So we should not actually be really worried. So the main question this petition is going to answer, and I'm sure Cyprian has put it even clearer in other forums, that what do we do to a president or the presidency, because Gachagua is also there, that breaks the law but cannot be impeached by parliament? And even if he's told, he cannot listen. He thinks his untouchable power has entered his head. He does not even understand where Kenyans are vis-a-vis where he is. Like a president whom people are crying about economic issues, for him he has come up with the political prescription of putting opposition inside government. And I'm sure, Cyprian, there should be a violation there. I'm even finding ODM violating. So if in fact, if you can impeach opposition, I'm sure they should be impeached as well. So that question can only be addressed by the fact that the constitution is not impotent. The constitution is not helpless. The constitution is not hopeless before the leaders because of the fact that who creates them? First of all, God creates us. God creates us. God is the cause of causes, the first cause. Then after causing, God causing us, we become Kenyans. With the Kenyan people, we give birth to our sovereignty. Our sovereignty gives birth to the constitution. The constitution gives birth to institutions, which is now State House, presidency, parliament, and the rest. So how can your cause be helpless before you? It's impossible. So we believe that there's a mechanism, there's a legal infrastructure to do this. When you cannot keep the constitution that elevated you and put you in the office, then the very constitution should lower you. Because remember, when Gachagua and Ruto were even crying, "Don't kill my children," they were below, they were very below, and immediately they were declared president and deputy president-elect. The constitution elevated them to that level. And by being sworn in, now they were at that level. So it is the very constitution that elevated them to that level, the instrument of the constitution. And the same instrument of the constitution should be able to lower them if they do not keep the constitution. And they swore that in the allegiance they took, in the execution of their office. So for that matter, everybody should know, and we should send this message, this petition, that you keep the constitution keeps you. You throw it away, it throws away. So the supremacy and the sovereignty must prevail now, and it should actually prevail forever, because this petition will be asking the questions that, can High Court using the 5-judge bench that has been requested, set up by the Chief Justice, determine that these violations are okay. And because evidence is there, if they say yes, even if they are 10 or 15, that's enough. The second question is, I think between the Constitution and the President and Deputy President, who is above the other? This is so obvious that even if you are a lawyer who hates KBT, you'll simply say that if you are a judge who hates KBT or hates Kenya, you'll just say the Constitution is above. So if we violate your boss, which is the Constitution, are you fit to be in office? Then you declare that you are not fit to be in office. But then the question comes, if you are fit, you are not fit to be in office, and in your office, is the constitution helpless just because there's no procedure like has been explained by Lampa? No, there should be a procedure which can be created, and even if it does not exist, this will create necessity. In fact, there's what you call the doctrine of necessity. If there's a necessity to do something, you do it. I'm a Catholic. Cyprian Nyamwamu here is a Catholic. The person who should do baptism is a priest. But if someone is dying next to me, I'm allowed to baptize them. If they happen not to die, then the priest will baptize them later. But if they die, they're considered to be in the kingdom of God. We must be in the kingdom of God as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the judge has said they are giving more time. We thought it was going to be soon, but nevertheless, we will be in Canaan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Gola.